Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm back. I'm here to read a few chapters. So if you're, I guess, looking at the order on YouTube, the 28 and 29 is missing, and so it's 36. So I'm going to just read those quick. Then I'll get on to chapter 41, which is what's coming up next. So I'm going to just jump into it and read it. I think I'm going to try to read chapters 28 and 29 in this video. And then, yeah, I'll discuss the notes I have and things. Okay, so this one's chapter 28, Deadly Solace. I never thought I would say this, but I'm surprised I'm not dead yet. With the basic frailty of life and the seemingly coincidental mistakes and mishaps, why haven't I laughed myself into an oncoming bus or jerked my head until my spinal cord dislocated? I'm surprised. I turned on. I woke up to the sound of his heart beating. I rose and fell with him, steadily, breathlessly. I dreamt of chaos that took me away from this uncomfortable world. I went into a world that made no sense, but seemed comfortable and similar. I could feel his thoughts crawling into mine, biting into my skin, and I watched him, breathlessly. My mind swirls. I worry about everything. I decide to turn off my mind like a switch of a lamp, and I stare at his seemingly simple face and the complexity of the room. I don't think, I just stare. I indulge in whatever it is that I see in front of me. His eyes open suddenly and beautifully. He smiles. You make me happy. I smile back. I think of something sweet to say that won't mimic the words, and all I could think of was, you make me happy. I touch his face, and he holds on to me tightly as if I said I was going to leave. I move in closer by an inch, and I could feel him aching for me. I found his lips with mine. I lost myself inside of him, in my solace. All right, so I'm going to just jump into chapter 29, and yeah. So, let's see. In my time of perfection, chapter 29. His breath was shallow above me. I could feel his fingers sinking deeper into my skin, tracing me. I can taste you. Yeah? Yeah, I smiled. What do I taste like? He slanted his head like a curious, intelligent child, like something I've been yearning for. He smiled at me, lovely. He lowered his head and kissed me. I smiled in the kiss and leaned forward, laying him on his back. I lied on the bed beside him and said, I can't imagine what it feels like to live in the stars. I look up at my plastered ceiling and smile. I adore you, do you know that? I look at him. Thank you. He said it with a sincerity that was melting. I looked at Frederick in her large cage, and she looked at me with a message. Can we go for a walk? I sat upwards, using the blanket to cover my breast. I could feel the cold air lathering my back. Sure. He lied there comfortable and staring at the clock on my side table. Then, looking at me happily, okay, get up. I look into his eyes and we smiled. I rip the sheets off the bed and smirk. I walk backwards facing the washroom. He lied there looking at me, wrapped in a sheet, only covering a third of my body. I'm just thinking, I'm really happy. He stood up and walked towards me. I stood there like a startled dame as he walked over to me, his body perfect. I put my hands around his neck and the sheet dropped to the floor, and we held each other. I listened to the sounds in his chest. He held me so nicely. We stood there in a time of perfection. So, so with these two episodes, with these two chapters, it's kind of the ending of them killing that couple, the parents or whatever, and now it's kind of just seeing their connection and them communicating and stuff. And then obviously there's like Frederick sent me a message like we're gonna leave. So if you haven't seen those episodes or those chapters already, you'll see them in this one. You'll put it in order hopefully, but there's a reason why they have to go see Frederick. Go see Lydia, and Frederick sent them a message. So like I might have said, Frederick is a bunny, and it's a female. And the reason why I said Frederick was there was a while back where I had this weird dream that this woman was talking to me, and I remember being on a dark street. I remember like a street light over my head, and it was just a woman talking to me, and her name was Frederick, and that was kind of the gist of what I remember from the dream. But that's where this name Frederick comes from. And like I said as well, my sister had a bunny that died and stuff, so I think also incorporating that bunny. So yeah, you'll see Frederick pop up maybe once or twice. Also, for chapter 27, like any little notes that I have, the one line that I say, like I'm surprised I haven't died yet, kind of again bringing the frailty of life, the fact that life is, like we're all mortal, this concept of death, and how you hear people die or how accidents happen and things like that. Again, despite the fact of being young or whatever, like I'm sure I had that question before, and it's just like, it's weird to see yourself, I get. It's weird that I haven't accidentally just died or something like that, and like also thinking that one day I am, and it might be an accident, might not be an accident, but just like the thought of like how come it hasn't happened yet, or despite how frail life is. I also underline the one concept of like I turned on. So like a lot of times, like I wrote here that I would always wake up at 7 o'clock, like just like something just happens and you're back into this planet. You're like in your bed and you're like, yeah, there's like this life, or you're thinking like, oh my gosh, these things happened yesterday. Like I just turn on. And I have said before that like I do remember one time being conscious and hearing my hearing chip in, and that was weird. It's happened maybe once or twice, like very few times, but that was like a really weird experience. Again, just talking about dreaming and stuff. I also had written here, sorry, that I like a scene. I was texting. Okay, I just said here that like it would be cool to see like a scene happening and the text saying, I decide to turn off my mind like the switch of a lamp, and I stare at his seemingly, like just that line, because it's not like she's saying anything, but she is thinking of it, and maybe there is no text and there is no audio playing, but that's written down at the bottom. So yeah, again, this was kind of just waking up, getting anxious, being anxious about life and like what it is, but then also finding comfort in like your partner, that's someone that's right beside you, you know? And yeah, just like the concept of relationships and stuff. When I go to chapter 29, like again, I guess like I also don't know who is talking. Let's say that to an extent, because one, I wrote this, and then second, I do kind of get confused when it does happen. But like when I do say as I keep going, I kind of choose who's saying what, and it doesn't matter who's saying what. So like for instance, here it's like he's tracing her, and then it's like, who said I can taste you? And then someone's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I can taste you. And she says, I smiled. So I'm assuming that it's her that says, I can taste you. And then it's like, then the next question's like, what do I taste like, right? So after she said, yeah, it's like, what do I taste like? So when he slants his head like a curious, intelligent child, is he slanting his head after he says, what do I taste like? Or is he slanting his head when he says, like something I've been yearning for? So say for instance here, it's like right at that sentence, you know that it was Aeolyn that says like something I've been tasting for, because when he slants his head like an intelligent child, it more makes sense to say, what do I taste like? So that's kind of my way of, I guess, dealing with the confusion of who's talking. At some point it becomes clear who's talking, or like it's in a context where it doesn't matter who's talking, if that makes sense. And also I wanted to say, yeah, like this one's a lot about just like them going back and forth again, just kind of seeing their relationship and things like that, seeing what kind of things they talk about. It's like, I can taste you. It's a lot like, what do my insides feel like? So that kind of like back and forth, like poetry and stuff like that. And again, like his fingers sinking into me and things like that. So like textures that are being put into it. And like the nice things, like, I adore you. Do you know that? Like, I'm really happy, things like that. So just like a chill like moment of them being in a relationship together. So now I'm going to go on to chapter, I believe I said 36. So yeah, I hope you guys are looking forward to the chapter 40 and things like that. So I'm going to get onto that video, and I'll see you guys in a second.